why am I coaching them if I don't think it's important? You know, not only for their development, but for what we're trying to accomplish. And so I like to actually reaffirm that. I think it inspires me. And I think if you're an inspired coach, you know, and you got good technique, you can be a very transformative coach.
When we first started this podcast back in 2014, finding guests was not always easy. So I often found myself just reaching out to friends that I knew within the lean community. And one of those folks is my longtime friend, Michael Lombard. Now, I've known Michael for many, many years, and I think we had done 3 episodes, and so we were up to episode number 4. And so I reached out to Michael, said, hey man, can you come on and talk about something? And I wasn't even really sure what the heck I was doing back then. And obviously still learning what I'm doing even today. But Michael was kind enough to come on back in May 8th, 2014, and we spent some time talking about Toyota Kata. Michael was one of the first people to really go out and become really outspoken about the power of Toyota Kata. And so today, what we've done is we kind of caught up on all the things that have been happening in Michael's life since 2014. And he's been busy having children and changing careers a few different times. And so Michael today is a managing director at Kaiser Permanente in the East Bay Area out in California. And so during the episode, what we do is we kind of talk about what he's done leading up to that role. And in fact, we spent quite a bit of time talking about a 2-year assignment he had turning around a hospital. He was the CEO of this hospital. And so we really talk about what he did, like how he approached that. And Michael had never been a CEO of a company before. And so he's really stepping in and learning as he went. But as you'll hear, he took a very kind of scientific thinking approach, imagine that, to solving the issues there. And it was a fantastic success story that he's going to tell you all about. Now, we then transition into his new role at Kaiser Permanente and talk about how they're applying Toyota Kata with physicians and really everyone there at the organization. And he's going to spend some time talking about what they call strive to thrive, which is a really cool way to think about continuous improvement. So show notes for this episode can be found over at gembapodcast.com. Just look for episode 243. Again, gembapodcast.com, and look for episode 243. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to the show. All right, Michael, welcome back to the show. How's it going, my man?
Man, I'm good. I'm glad to be here, man. Can't believe it. We were looking online. We were just talking. I was the 4th
number
episode
4
ever in the illustrious Gemba Academy podcast history.
Yeah, this one, I don't even know where we're at, 260 something now.
That's what triggered it when I saw that you had gone past the 200 episode.
Yeah.
I was like, my goodness, that's amazing. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, we've not, I had to double check this, but I don't think we've ever missed a week.
That's incredible,
ever.
Man.
I think we had 1 week early on where we had an iTunes problem. The episode was there, but iTunes was messed up or something. And but yeah, you're a machine, man. I had because I was trying to find my episode, which was the 4th one,
and I had to keep scrolling back and back and back, and I had to keep going. I'm like, where the heck?
Yeah,
how many has these done? But it kind of goes along with my quote.
Yeah,
it's easier to act your way to a new way of thinking than it is to think your way to a new way of acting, right? And when you get into those habit building routines, it just becomes a reflex. And it's just impressive how you can produce under those circumstances. So kudos, man.
Thank you. Well, I love doing it. It's and this has been especially fun. So hey, episode number 4. People need to go back. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Old school.
That's old school. As you see, your OG, man. We came a long way since then, my man. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
A lot of learning.
But catch everybody up, Michael. What's been up since 2014 with your life?
Became a father, have 2 kids now.
That's awesome.
Isabella's 4 already.
Wow.
Going on 14.
Yeah.
And then little MJ, he's 2, about to be 3.
Yeah.
And it's just been life-changing.
Well, they're sleeping now, kind of, right?
They're finally sleeping. And they're healthy as can be.
Yeah.
And they're awesome. And so that's been life-changing, of course, and kind of taught me the virtue of patience, which I think is important with lean leadership.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty transformative, and I've continued my journey in healthcare.
Yeah.
And trying to learn as much as I can and help people basically.
So walk us through your healthcare journey so far. Like what have you done along the way, and what are you doing these days?
So I guess I started it was about 9 years ago, 8-9 years ago in healthcare, working at Children's Medical Center in Dallas as a project manager, and then went to Texas Health Resources as a operational excellence director for a while, and then for the past 4 years until recently, I've been working for a company called Cornerstone Healthcare Group based out of Dallas. And the last role I had there was a kind of a stretch assignment. It was to go to a hospital in Southwest Louisiana and be the CEO. And it was kind of we thought it was going to be kind of a closure. You know, we thought maybe the hospital was going to have to shut down. And we ended up kind of turning it around. You know, it took about 2 years. But that was the last role I had before my current role, which is brought me out to California to work for Kaiser Permanente as a managing director for the East Bay, which is the area that includes Oakland, and just overseeing our lean transformation. And some other stuff, supply chain reports into me, and some of the technical Medicare operations stuff that we do reports into me. So kind of an odd portfolio, but mostly it's lean management. Yeah.
So I definitely want to dive deep into your Kaiser role there, but let's go back to your previous role as CEO. What did that look like? What was the problem, you know, and how did you approach it?
Well, I was reflecting on this driving down today, and you know, when I went down there 2 years ago or so, the hospital had the CEO had resigned. Most of the leadership team had left. They all went over to the other hospital, which was the competitor in the market.
Okay.
And so there was basically no leadership team, and they didn't know if they were even going to keep the hospital open. It was I think that it was probably within a month or two of being closed down for good.
Okay.
That was the situation.
Wow.
And it was really
how many beds? And
it's a small specialty hospital, 30 beds.
Okay.
And it's part of a 100-bed campus, so we kind of have one section of the campus.
Okay.
And it was just in dire straits, and you know, a lot of shenanigans going on in Cajun country, you know, and it was kind of, well, it really wasn't funny, but it was actually just so bad that it was comical.
Wow.
You know, and it was really just a stretch assignment for me to learn and to get some experience as a hospital administrator, but there were no expectations. And
so what was your approach?
You know, I was fresh off of, you know, I've been teaching, really going deep into the improvement kata, coaching kata, spreading it across 18 hospitals within this company, Cornerstone, for years leading up to this. So it was like I was getting a ton of reps.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was kind of ready. You know, Mike Rother talks about, you know, take the training wheels off.
Yeah.
You know, you need to make it your own. And that's kind of what I did. I didn't go down there and introduce any formal methodology. It was more of just like, hey, let's identify the problem to be solved, and let's get to work on, you know, aligning the organization. Let's get to work on improving our processes and developing our people and enabling them. Kind of the three, you know, areas that I always fall back on is like, how are we doing in those three categories? And that kind of is the approach that I took. And, you know, it was very complex. For example, like the alignment piece at first, there was no like Hoshin planning or strategy deployment. It was like, can we keep the doors open?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to align around for now.
Yeah.
And that, you know, in order to do that, we had to rebuild a leadership team. So that was like the first target. And then after that, we had a bunch of really technical regulatory issues that we had to work our way through that also threatened to shut the doors. So that was like the next target. So the first little bit alignment was kind of easy because it was like, it's do or die.
Yeah.
You know, it's not hard to build consensus to, hey, we have to improve.
The burning platform was survival.
It was there. It was like,
yeah,
flaming barge of burning platform.
Yeah.
So, you know, but eventually it became more complex. It was like, okay, now can we actually make budget? You know, God forbid we actually make budget a couple months. And we did that. We achieved that for a whole year. And then it was like, can we actually secure our future? And basically that meant in that market, because of the dynamics there, it meant, can we strike up a joint venture with one of our big referrals, so one of our big customers? And I checked in. I've been gone for about 9 months, but I checked in with my successor. Yeah. And they just closed the deal on the joint venture just like a month or two ago. And so the future is bright for
Nice.
that location. But you can see how it started off. The alignment piece was just, let's stay open.
Yeah.
And then let's hit budget, and then let's
Yeah.
move forward. So that was the alignment piece.
Nice.
And then as far as like, that I'm most passionate about when it comes to a lean management system or whatever is enabling your people, developing your people. And, which is why I'm probably such a big fan of improvement kata, coaching kata method. But we didn't introduce that as a formal thing, but we did introduce some things like visual management and huddling to be able to, so that everybody had a way to speak up and a way to surface issues and a way to tackle them using visual management. So that was kind of like probably the number one tool that I relied upon when I was down there. Was a big old visual management board that took up a whole wall in a conference room.
Nice.
And everybody had their segment of the board, and their segment of the board had, here are my 2 KPIs on a run chart that I'm tracking, and here's my daily flow of patients that I'm managing, and then here are the improvement my A3s or whatever.
Yeah.
And so everybody had their board, and that was like I use that as a development tool for my people.
Were there any employees that were there at the very beginning of the crisis that stuck with you all the way through?
Oh, everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Once the coup d'etat had occurred and the whole prior regime kind of left, the remainders, which out of let's say a 12-person leadership team, there was maybe 3 that remained, and then we added the other.
But then there was nurses and
all
that kind of stuff.
And a lot of them were looking for jobs, and we were able to retain most of them. Through a good partnership with HR.
Yeah.
And once we settled down after that first month, we didn't lose a single leader the whole time I was there. It was a miracle. I was really thankful because there's no way you can make progress unless you got stability with your leadership team. And there was, people that had been there for 25 years. They were bought in.
Yeah.
They did not want to see that place shut down. Okay. And they're the ones that had the gumption to make it happen. It was
so looking back on it now, if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself now, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything different?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we always learn, and
it's
go
easy
along
because
the way,
I was a rookie CEO, so it's like expected that you're going to make a bunch of mistakes. And we did. Fortunately, none were like, grievous mistakes. But they was like, I spoke about this at when I did my keynote at KataCon last year in Atlanta. Title of my presentation was When the Training Wheels Come Off. Yeah. And I kind of did a little rope-a-dope. I kind of led the audience down a path where we were talking about, hey, we turned around this hospital and it was all great. And then at the end, I kind of gave them a surprise ending, which was, but here's what went wrong. And it was the fact that, as I'm using kind of the scientific mindset that I kind of developed by practicing kata for, 1,000+ coaching cycles, kind of just started using it to make stuff happen down in that market, forging, joint ventures and whatnot. And it was really, we were testing every step along the way. Yeah. But the people that I was working with, they hadn't been really formally trained in that method. And so for some of them, it was very stressful. And, it made life tough on them because there was so much experimentation happening around them. And they just didn't know how to frame it. Like they didn't have the context to think scientifically. Yeah. And so if I were to go back and do it again, I would have introduced more formal, deliberate practice of kata as opposed to just de facto practice. Like we're practicing, we're doing it, but I'm not calling it anything. Yeah. I would have given them a little bit more education, a little bit more time to kind of like adapt, because I think for some people they really struggle with embracing that uncertainty that comes from rapid experimentation. Yeah. So that was a big kind of aha moment for me. Like, I would have done that differently.
Yeah. Got it. Well, great job though.
It was fun. It was very stressful. I got all these gray hairs in my beard now that I did not have before I went down there. Yeah. I also have a deep appreciation for gumbo now.
Okay.
Because when you're in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and they have an annual hospital gumbo cook-off. Like basically every department makes their own gumbo, and it's like unique and distinct. There's 20 different, 5-gallon pots of gumbo lined up, and you have to sample them all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the culture down there. Okay. And it's delightful, but
instead of chili cook-off, it's
exactly. Although I did introduce Texas chili into the market.
Nice.
And we had a chili cook-off right before I left.
There you go.
And I think, true Louisiana political fashion, I think they rigged the voting, and I ended up losing.
All right. That's all right. So let's talk a little bit about what you're up to these days, Michael. What's your role looking like these days at Kaiser Permanente?
Yeah, so in my role there, I've worked. See, Kaiser's kind of this big behemoth of a healthcare system,
Yeah.
and in each service area, it's kind of you have two organizations. You have Permanente Medical Group, which is all the doctors, and then you have the hospital and health plan side. It's a really great actual model the way that they do it. It's all one-stop shopping. You know, if you're a member, you kind of prepay for your care. Your money flows into the health plan. The health plan distributes it to the medical group, and the doctors are the ones that make the decisions on what's going to be done right for the patient. And then they work in collaboration with the hospital and then the outpatient centers as needed. And so I work on both sides, which is a fun thing. You know, you get to almost work with two cultures. You know, although there's a lot of similarity and there's a lot of unity, but you get to see the different leadership styles.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like it's like you have two petri dishes, you know, and you're experimenting with things and you can try things. But anyway, so that's the way Kaiser's set up, and I'm manage their what we call patient care improvement system. It's our version of a lean management system.
Okay.
And that's the majority of my portfolio. And, you know, we were talking earlier, there's a few other departments and stuff, operational departments that report into me, but it's predominantly focused on, you know, aligning the organization and process improvement and developing people.
Yeah. So what's Kaiser's journey with scientific thinking, Toyota Kata?
Yeah, I started introducing it about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And it kind of took off kind of organically. We on the medical group side, it's a very kind of collegial environment. It's not a big top-down structural kind of culture. And so instead of doing like the standard approach to introducing kata, which would be you form, you know, an advanced team and you start developing your initial cadre of coaches, and then you kind of multiply from there. We said, why don't we just do kind of more of an organic approach? Just kind of let's train all of our physician chiefs. That's like the head physicians for each department. You know, let's train them up and let's see what they do with it. You know, because they're a bunch of really high achieving, smart, dedicated folks. Let's just see what they do. And I was kind of wasn't exactly enthusiastic about that approach because it just wasn't what I was used to.
Okay.
But I went with it, you know, because I was new and I didn't really fully understand the culture, but I trusted the people that I was collaborating with, and it really yielded some nice unanticipated applications of kata that I never even considered. For example, one of our docs who's over our adult and family medicine practice is it's like our primary care department, and so it's a major kind of department, and the head of that, he just started using it with his patients, actually coaching a patient as if the patient was a learner, because you can come up with the best care plan, but if they don't adhere to it for whatever reason.
So it was a challenge to be well?
Well, if you think about it, so this led to, once we heard that he was using kata directly with patients to help them strive through their own psychosocial issues that were preventing them from being well.
Yeah.
Then we started thinking about what does it really mean to be well? Because Kaiser has this campaign, it's called Thrive. That's like their main marketing focus. It's called Thrive. And the idea means we want our members to thrive. We want them to have well-being. We want them to be healthy. But we started talking about, well, what does that really mean? Is there something more even than just not being sick? Is our job as a health system to just help you not be sick? Or is it to help you be happy? Or is it to be able to do meaningful things? Is it to enable you? So because Kaiser is like pretty far ahead on a lot of the areas that healthcare struggles with, they've accomplished things that have created a nice, stable foundation.
Okay.
They can start to have these types of conversations and say, you know, what do we want to be in the future? Is it just to keep people from getting sick, or is it to help enable them to do meaningful things, you know, to learn and to grow? And, you know, you can actually have those kind of conversations at the senior levels at a company like that because of the foundation of stability that they have.
Yeah.
So when we run these little experiments, like using kata with a patient, it's like we're kind of studying that.
Yeah.
And saying, could that be, you know, a bigger thing?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I mentioned, Thrive, that's the marketing thing for Kaiser.
Yeah.
Well, kata's kind of a striving model. So we said, let's just call it Strive to Thrive. Can we all, so doctors, can we strive? Can employees strive? Can leaders strive? Can our community and our patients and our members strive? And can it develop those good striving skills? And can that lead to maybe better mental resiliency? we've seen that happen when you do kata with your folks inside the organization.
Yeah.
You see them develop a nice resiliency, right?
Yeah.
Why couldn't a patient do that? And so the strive to thrive kind of applies to all of our people, not just our employees, if that makes sense.
So how's that working with that doc and his a patient?
Yeah, I mean, it's just
it's got a big storyboard up on the wall, or what? Or
it's more informal than that.
Okay.
It's more of like in the flow of their normal appointments.
Just how they're having conversations.
Yeah. It's like a training wheels off kind of version of it. It's just
kind of setting target conditions based on next time I'm going to see you in a week,
like
or
you want
whatever.
your blood sugar to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
And you have all these obstacles. You've got the way you normally cook is full of carbs
stuff.
or whatever. And, and maybe there's medication that you can't afford, or maybe there could be 100 different psychosocial determinants that might be kind of obstacles to your meeting your target. And so doctors often they tell me that they often get very frustrated, and they kind of lose a lot of joy in their practice, because it's like, I come up with this great care plan, I know it'll work, it's not really that complicated. It's like, you're pre-diabetic, we know kind of what you got to do to not be diabetic, but nobody does it. And so it's like, feels like my work isn't meaningful. That's what they're telling me. And they're saying, but now when I'm now thinking of it as a coach, not as the designer of their care plan specifically, but rather I'm helping coach them to a care plan, help them strive through their challenges, is adding some more kind of joy and meaning back to their practice, which is a really cool thing to see. Because when you're in Kaiser, we have so many members, and you just see so many patients, and it can become very much of just a repetitive thing. But now this is adding some more human element back into their practice, which is cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, what about just from a continuous improvement perspective? How are you using improvement coaching kata for that?
Oh yeah. So we've started to develop advanced teams now. Mm-hmm. For example, we have a group of doctors that are what we call communication consultants. They help doctors improve their communication skills with patients so that the experience can be better for the patient. And we're training them up as an advanced team so that when they go to kind of help a doctor improve their patient satisfaction experience, they can use the same techniques. That's one example. And
what's an advanced team, just for folks that maybe don't know what we're talking about?
So it's the group of folks that you kind of go deep with, and you really develop them, and you get them a lot of reps so that they can have some level of proficiency with the improvement kata, coaching kata method. And then once they're pretty proficient as a learner, they can start practicing the coaching kata, and then they can become pretty proficient at that. And at that point, they can start grooming the next wave of coaches so that you can spread. It's kind of improvement kata, coaching kata method is kind of designed to be a spreadable method. There's other maybe more sophisticated improvement techniques, if you want to get into doing A3 problem solving in a very, very like powerful, sophisticated manner, but it's not necessarily designed to be spreadable, something that's designed to get rapid reps. Kata is all about getting tons of reps so you can get practice and kind of rewire your neural pathways, and so that's why you've developed the advanced team, is not for them to be the greatest, most advanced problem solvers in the world, but to be able to get to a level of proficiency that they can then spread it. And that's a little bit of a fundamental difference with kata. It's very, we consider it at Kaiser East Bay very squarely in the kind of enabling people and developing people category, more so than just like process improvement. But although you get that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I the way I like in the scientific thinking is, or Toyota Kata, I'm using the analogy, and it's not perfect analogy, but I believe it's the horse, and the horse is walking towards this ideal state, challenge, whatever you want to call it, where they got a heading, and they're pulling this huge cart, and the cart's full of things. Maybe our tools, maybe our methodologies, whatever it might be. And the horse eventually comes against an obstacle. Something is in the way. No, a horse can't get around it. So he needs something out of the cart to get through it. So, in Gemba Academy's example, we have 1,500 videos. So people are like, which one do I start with? Hell, I don't know. What obstacle do you have in front of you right now? Right. And that will dictate the tool. Right.
Having that meta skill of knowing kind of what tool tends to kind of be useful in what situation is really powerful, especially when there's so many tools out there to choose from that it can become tool of the day or whatever.
Right.
Except when you're doing it just in time in response to a specific issue. That's powerful.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about now is you've been practicing kata for a long, long time, Michael, one of the leaders of this movement, I would say. There's this, I was actually talking to a person recently, and they were saying something to the extent of that they don't want to get bogged down in the tools, and they started rattling off 5S, 7 ways Toyota Kata, and I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, it's not a tool, it's a way of thinking, right? And so I think we've got to do a better job within this lean movement of ours and kata practitioners of explaining that it's not a tool, right? It's a way of deliberately practicing, of learning. And I would even say we should stop trying to solve so many problems. Instead, try to learn faster. And the faster we learn, the problems will be knocked down. But it's not about solving the problem. It's about learning, right?
When you get so many reps and so much practice that you kind of learn how to learn, and you improve how you improve, then you've got that meta skill.
It changed your life. It's
just like, okay, now whatever's in front of me I can deal with. Whether it's a hospital in Louisiana that's about to close down, or whether it's a patient in front of a doctor that's got some psychosocial issues. It's just this tenacious mindset and these reflexes.
Or my 16-year-old daughter who's stressed out because she's struggling in chemistry, right? And so, all right, let's break it down, babe, And, next thing you know, she's chipping away one obstacle, and she's doing it. And next thing you know, grades come up. She's believing in herself,
It's amazing how that snowball effect starts to happen, But on the topic specifically of the tools and the kind of misinterpretation of where kata fits in, I used to try to have a lot of these intellectual conversations and try to talk my way into, like, let me try to explain the difference between a tool and a meta habit, and it would never leave anywhere. Like, everybody just has their understanding.
Anytime we say meta, they're like, what? What's meta mean?
So it's pointless to have it's back to acting your way to a new way of thinking. So what I love to do is just, I don't even really tell them that we're doing it. I just start doing it with them. And so, I'm working on this A3, trying to improve, reduce defects in my department or whatever. And it's like, oh, cool, let me see your A3. Okay, so you're on the left side. So your target is probably to get this left side done in the next, 2 weeks? Is that about right? Yeah, okay, cool. Well, what are obstacles, would you have to get through to get the left side of that A3 done? Well, this fishbone diagram, I'm not exactly sure how to really do that or who I need. Okay, what's an experiment that you could do to maybe, I can go watch a Gimba Academy video on fishbones.
I was hoping you were going to say
Boom.
that. Boom!
And so, you're going to pull out the good whiskey later, right?
Yeah.
So that's, while I would have, 3-4 years ago, I would have spent hours trying to convince this person that kata plays well with A3s, and they're not in competition for each other. And having people argue, no, let's just not do kata, let's just do A3. I'm like, cool, let's do A3. Let me help you real quick. We're going to do this coaching tech. And they don't even know it. Before they know it, they've got it in a few reps. And then they're starting to see, there's some thing that happens.
There's a rhythm.
It's like this rhythm, and now we're dancing. And
this routine even.
It's almost like a practice, like we're practicing a routine. What is it? And that's, that's the point I've gotten to. Maybe it's just lessons learned from the past.
No, I love it. I mean, we still have a, kind of a traditional green belt, black belt program for folks that want to learn to make, and we coach them now using coaching kata. All right, so where do you want to be? Oh, you got to do an MSA, measurement system analysis. Cool. All right. So what's in your way? Well, which one of those do you want to go after first? That one. Okay, cool. What do you want to try? What do you think's going to happen? When can we find out what we've learned? Next, and it's beautiful. It's just this rhythm, and we're moving through the DMAIC process with a coaching kata.
And it feels natural.
It is. It's totally natural.
What I love though is when you get to so you get past that point, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. There's like this meta thing that I really like. Well, how can we do more of this kata stuff? And I say, well, well, what would a target be for that?
Yeah.
Can we get to, a one repetition a day?
Yeah.
Okay, how do we currently do that? You know, what is our current approach? Are we blocking any time to do coaching?
Yeah.
So we're walking them through, we're kata the kata,
Yeah.
and then the head explodes, and then you have to kind of regroup.
Exactly. The hardest part, I've been meaning to ask you, I wanted to have you on for last year or so. The hardest part of practicing kata to me and teaching others and even just doing it ourselves at Gamba Academy is target conditions.
So tough.
They're so tough.
Yeah.
What have you learned along the way to help with setting good target conditions?
Yeah, I mean, it's all what you do prior to trying to set the target condition, so, and that could come in, there's a couple different ways to interpret that. So one, how much practice do you get before, so the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. So that's a blanket statement.
Sure.
But more specifically, it's like, as you're doing the understanding the direction part of kata, and then you're doing the grasp the current condition part, then setting a target becomes essentially the art or the talent, I guess, of holding two things in your mind simultaneously.
Yeah.
Where are we headed overall and where are we at today, and using insights from both of those to find this where the Venn diagram overlaps.
Yeah.
Between what makes sense for where we're headed in the future and what would be based on the reality of today. So you're holding these two, because thinking about the overall direction, I'm using my hands here as anybody can see me on the podcast, but when you're thinking overall direction off in the distance, you're using the strategic part of your mind, and sometimes the creative part of your mind, or should be always.
Yeah.
We actually, we don't call it like a direction or a challenge or a Hoshin. We call it just, what would awesome be? Let's talk about awesome, and then we work our way back from that to find, like Hoshins, like challenges or goals or whatever. But we start with just like creative, like let your mind roam, like what would the ideal situation, what would awesome look like? Yeah. So you're holding that creative, strategic, big pie in the sky kind of mentality, and at the same time, then you're doing the grasp of the current condition, where you're doing a very analytical, like objective reality check, like really how are things done today, and what kind of results does that produce today? And, what are some of the factors at play today? So there's a very analytical mindset. And then you're holding this creative, big picture kind of mindset. And at the same time, and you're holding those two things at once. That's a tough thing to do. Yeah. That's totally different, right? Yeah. Those two mindsets. Yeah. And so you're trying to hold them in tension, at the same time, and then trying to snatch out of that ether, like the where these two bodies are orbiting each other. You're trying to find that gravity that kind of connects them.
That stepping stone.
You're like, that's it. That's okay. I got it. I think that's it. Yeah. And then of course it's an experiment to see if you even selected the right target. So that's a different type of experiment that occurs at a higher level than the little experiments that you're doing to get to your target.
So here's another tactical kata question for you. So when you're let's say you're well into a regular routine with a learner, you've had many different coaching sessions, and they have a previous step that they're coming to report on, kind of thing. When you ask the question on the card, what's your current what's your target condition, so they can say, okay, what's your current condition? So when you ask the current condition, how often do you go back to the because you're really asking what's the current condition of that target condition, right? How often do you go back and what's the current condition as it relates to the challenge? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because there could be two different things.
You mean okay, so let me just clarify. We're not talking about the current condition originally when we first started.
Right.
You're not talking about that.
No.
Yeah. You're talking about how, like, are we 25% on the way to our target? Are we 100% on the way? Have we met our target yet?
Yeah, let's say, for example, let's say the challenge is I want to run a marathon. I want to run 26.2 miles. What's your beginning? What's the current condition? I can't even run a mile without throwing up. Okay, cool. What's your target condition? Where do you want to be in 2 weeks? Well, I want to be able to run a mile without walking. Yeah. Okay, cool. List out some obstacles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're working our way towards that mile and come back for our third coaching session. Hey, what's your target condition? I want to run a mile without walking. What's your current, where are you at now? So they're gonna talk about that. But now we're not worried about 26.2 anymore. We're worried about that target condition. I guess sometimes the question comes in is, how often do you track where are we at on the 26.2 miles? Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I like to start off a coaching cycle by, as the coach, I'll I like to kind of lead them into the right frame of mind and the right vibe, to have a good, productive coaching cycle. So I like to kind of kick things off by, let's reaffirm our vision of where we're headed overall.
Yeah.
And I like to actually do that myself as a, I probably should have them articulate that back to me, but I actually like to do it myself as a way of showing like my commitment to their journey, because why am I coaching them if I don't think it's important? You know? Not only for their development, but for what we're trying to accomplish. And so I like to actually reaffirm that. I think it inspires me. And I think if you're an inspired coach, and you got good technique, you can be a very transformative coach. If you're just kind of going through the motions, you don't really care. You can still be a good coach with good technique, but I like to kind of make sure that I'm committed and verbally indicating that. So I'll say, all right, man, so Ron, you're working on this awesome thing, man. You're going to run a marathon. That is, so few people do that. That is so awesome. So I'm trying to do the emotional intelligence thing so we can connect and, get the atmosphere is conducive to good coaching.
Set the learner at ease, right? TWI.
And just and get excited. Let's just get excited because running the marathon, that's a cool thing. Let's get excited about that. So I like to do that. And that's always a good starting point. And then it's okay. With that awesome challenge in mind, let's jump into these 5 questions. And what I love is you start to see at the medical center, we have little badge buddies that have the 5 questions card on them. And people will say, hey, I just need to practice. I need to get some reps. Do you mind if I use these questions with you? Is it just a way to kind of
have a conversation,
coax somebody into doing it with them? Because there's in the past, just well-intentioned but ineffective coaching can be well, what are you doing to fix this problem? And then they're automatically triggered in a negative way. They're kind of in an away posture at that point. You can physically see people kind of withdraw, lean back almost. And so as a counter to that, people would just be humble and say, I just need to practice my coaching kata. I need to ask these questions. Do you mind if I just do them with you real quick? So then you jump into the questions and then you get, then it's pretty straightforward, but there's that part where you were mentioning when you get to it says after you've answered the second question, what is the current condition? It says flip the card over and reflect on the last experiment. It amazes me to this day how often people just struggle with that act of flipping the card over and reflecting on the last experiment. The first, I would say, 5 to 10 coaching cycles I do with somebody, I know that every time they're going to not understand why to reflect on the experiment or how to do it. It's just this physically awkward thing for them to do. So I like to,
well, it's crossing your arms the other way, man.
Exactly. It is. Even at a physical level, just the flipping over of that card, it's throws them off. And so I've experimented with different formats of the card, but I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't think it's the tool that's the issue. I think it's just mindset that, that has to be formed. So it's interesting how that always target conditions, because you're trying to hold these two things constant, where are we headed and where are we at, and making a decision based on both of those mindsets. So that's tough. And then that part about reflecting on the last experiment, it's people so uneasy about that. So I like to kind of try to hone my skills in those 2 areas whenever I can.
I love it.
As a coach.
I love it. What's next for Michael Lombard and Kaiser Permanente?
Yeah, I'm really loving it there. Kaiser's very much a leader in quality in the healthcare industry. They're pretty revolutionary, actually, the way that they've modeled their company, their business model. And I see this kind of strive to thrive concept as having a lot of room for growth. I think, we've seen multiple anecdotal examples of how it can be used directly with patients, and now we want to put more research into that and kind of prove it out. And fortunately, being in the Bay Area, we've got wonderful resources. UC Berkeley, right in our backyard, and they have the CLEAR Institute, the Center for Lean Engagement and Research in Healthcare. And Dr. Stephen Shortell is a friend, and we're looking at how can we quantify the impact of Strive to Thrive using kata with patients. Trying to put some more formality behind that. So I see that as somewhere that we're going to be headed. And just continuing to evolve our management system, which is we're about 3-4 years into lean transformation. I've only been there for 9 months, and for the first 3 years or so, it was your traditional infancy of lean, where you're doing a lot of tools, and we're starting to kind of start to understand like the Shingo model a little bit more, and to kind of unwind from the tool-based architecture and go to more of the principle-based architecture, which is, comes down to ideal behaviors, which come down to habits and reflexes. So here we go with kata again. It's like, how can we help you set a target to develop a new habit or reflex for doing whatever, catch ball as part of your strategy deployment, or doing coaching as part of your people development, or doing, pulling the andon cord as part of your continuous daily improvement. It's like, that's a reflex too. Well, let's set a target. How can we get our folks to feel perfectly safe pulling that andon cord? So I see us progressing toward a behavior and habit based principle based architecture. That's really where my focus is right now. And I think we're just getting started, so a lot of room for growth.
Well, we'll have you back on in another year. Let's not wait
4 years
5 years.
I forgot to ask you, man, how many kids do you have now?
7.
I tried to start trying to catch up with you, just no way to do it, man. Got too much of a lead on me. I think we're done at 2.
Well, that's all right.
But they are a handful. And I'm sure 7's a handful.
Well, it's interesting when you have that many kids. The older ones end up being like little. My oldest 2 are girls. Thank the good Lord. So they're super, super helpful and mature. And
when's the last time you had good Texas barbecue?
Oh man, a couple weeks ago maybe.
Oh, that's not bad. It's been a while for me. I haven't lived in Texas for about, I guess, 2 years now. And but I did last weekend. Went into San Francisco for this pop-up barbecue event with an Oakland-based barbecue guy, Matt Horn. And it was awesome. It was Texas-style barbecue. He actually went to Texas, to the Gemba, and studied how they make barbecue, and absorbed it all and brought it back to the Bay. Good. So now we got Texas barbecue in the Bay. I'm stoked.
Nice. So good. Hey, so how can folks connect with you, Michael? What's the best way?
Man, it's been a while since I've even thought about that.
LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn, Michael Lombard. I'm Twitter, it's at Mike Lombard. I don't really I used to do a lot of blogging and YouTube videos and stuff, but it's been probably 4 years since I've done any of that kind of stuff. Just with kids and with these types of roles that I have, it's like there's not a minute to breathe. But,
I hear you.
But I guess probably on LinkedIn and Twitter and that's
cool. All right, brother. Well, hey, man. Well, we got to get ready to go to this Gemba Academy cocktail party. Not to rub it in listeners' ears that they wouldn't be able to go because it's already passed.
Why aren't you here, listeners?
Some of them are.
We'll see you later then. Hey, you
That's kind of weird. It's like, I know.
Back to the Future.
You're blowing my mind. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Ron.
Be good.
Thanks for listening to the Gemba Academy podcast. Now, we invite you to take a no-strings-attached, fully functional test drive of GembaAcademy.com. Gain immediate access to more than 1,000 Lean and Six Sigma learning resources, all free of charge, at GembaAcademy.com.